I'll let you know if I need one. You're live.
All right. Hello, everyone. Greetings. Greetings and welcome to Real History.
How's the microphone working out?
Yeah, let us know. We had to do a technological hack here at the very last moment.
There are two cameras sitting on the ground, and we resorted to this one. We had angles, everything, and here we are.
Yeah. So, I'm Jared Frederick. I'm joined by my trusty producer,
Andrew Collins.
And as you can see in the background, we do not have the typical Real History backdrop at play. My Chamberlain painting is gone. The wall is being primed, and that's
6 feet from the wall.
Yeah, the couch is 6 feet from the wall. But so you're getting to see more of the room here. And the reason for that being is that I have a 120-year-old house, and the plumbing that was put in when Theodore Roosevelt was president finally decided that it wanted to get a little bit leaky. And so our Real History home studio is going through a little bit of a makeover process.
It's been out of commission for over a month.
Yes, it has been a long, arduous campaign to fix the wall, and there was beautiful horsehair plaster that left residue everywhere and all sorts of things like that. So these are the vintage things that I do not enjoy quite as much. I enjoy many vintage things in life, but old horsehair plaster is not among them. So, Andy, how about you tell our dedicated fans what you have been up to over these past several weeks and your great big challenges that you've been confronting?
Why, sure. Well, I've been editing our journey through the John Adams series from HBO, and every single one of them except episode 4 that I got out has been demonetized, and several times they were straight up blocked. And I think episode 2 I was up to 11 or 12 separate renders trying to get it to pass copyright, and the whole video every week thing just kind of fell apart.
And it's worth saying, too, that in these videos, we use perhaps, 4 or 5 minutes at most?
Oh, not even.
Yeah, not even that.
I know for almost every video is automatically flagged if I use more than a 10-second clip. And people are saying, oh, come on, it's fair use. Just put more in there or whatever. And you can't see the video at all if I do that. They block it. So, hi from Washington. Oh, my sister says we sound good.
Thanks, Nicole.
Super Troop. He was here for our last one.
All right, wonderful. Justin from Washington State. Wonderful. Glad to have you aboard. So what we plan to do during this very informal conversation, we can talk about some recent history films that we have watched and we will possibly be reviewing in the future. And of course, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what movies you think we should analyze. If you have historical questions about films or other topics in history, we are open to them. Now that we've expressed some of our challenges of the past month, and we've been very, very busy with personal life too.
Personal life. Well, obviously you started classes again. I just got a promotion at work, so I've been stressing, being busy over that. And it's a very busy time of year for living history. And we just stormed the beaches in Normandy 2 weekends ago. So you might have seen some of that if you keep up with social media and the Furious Fourth. But really, we're just here. We're filling a void because between not being able to film and not being able to publish the videos we do film, we figured we'd just give you something entertaining to watch and interact a little bit.
Yeah, although it's not as entertaining without Chuck Lynch here. But he may bust in at any moment if he's watching this. So
I would not be surprised if he kicked that door down in his underwear with a K-bar.
You never know. You never know with the enigmatic Chuck Lynch. Yes. So,
hey, Tucci, what's going on, man? We were in Iraq together.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Cheers.
I'm all right. I've been out of the Army for 3 years now, and I'm just living life.
Isn't social media an amazing thing? Reconnect with people from all over. So let's talk about some movies.
What's the most recent one you've seen?
So, just about a week ago, I saw Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, and I was a bit late on the curve in this regard. I can hold the middle there. And I've been wanting to see that for a good while, but I've just been so doggone busy for the past month that I never quite fitted into my schedule, and I couldn't find anybody who wanted to go with me to see it,
or could go with you.
Yeah, that had the time to fit it in. So I ended up going to the theaters by myself, which I don't do too often. But
is that a cathartic experience?
It is a sometimes cathartic experience. You just go and you just watch the show and you enjoy it for what it is. But I thoroughly enjoyed the new Elvis film. And I was a bit reticent at first because Luhrmann's films are very stylistic and sometimes they can be sensory overload. Mm-hmm. And he definitely delved into that territory with this film. One film critic said the cinematography was like throwing the audience into a washing machine and putting it on spin cycle. And I could definitely see that to an extent. But what I enjoyed about the Elvis film was the fact that it did such a great job of contextualizing the music industry and American society from the 1950s through the 1970s. And it got into some really profound issues, racial issues, cross currents of American music. There's just so many things that were intertwined in all of that, and I just thought it did a really good job of capturing the era and the man. And Austin Butler, the actor who portrayed him, I don't know if you've seen any clips or the trailer or anything.
I've seen the trailer. That's it.
But the mannerisms, the voice, he's definitely going to be nominated for an Academy Award. As a result,
I'll have to take my dad to see it. He's a huge Elvis fan.
Yeah, I don't think he will be disappointed. And Austin Butler is going to be featured in a film that we've talked about to an extent here on Real History. He is one of the key protagonists in the forthcoming miniseries Masters of the Air.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a good year for Austin Butler, I would say.
Let's see how Apple TV treats us on that one.
Yeah, well, I guess Greyhound will be a good guinea pig in regard to how Apple TV treats our breakdowns of their films.
We have a very special plan for Greyhound, and we're hoping to get it out sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are going to be joined by a special guest as we analyze Greyhound, and hopefully we'll get that out by sometime in the fall.
Oh, yeah.
If not sooner.
It really scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
So I also I have a good friend who actually in the Army trained the cast of Fury, and he has a few pictures of himself with the cast and everything. And he's only an hour from here, so I'm trying to convince him to come on, and he was a tanker, and to come on and speak about that. So,
yeah, and along a similar line in regard to personalities in our lives who have interacted with these movies or the real life plots of these movies, I learned that one of my students was in the Navy during the Captain Phillips incident and was involved to an extent in all of that. So perhaps he might be willing to come on and be a guest host and share some of his insider perspective.
Would that count as
in that regard? We could probably count that as extra credit. I would think he's a great student. He's really into history, and along those lines, 2 weeks into the semester, Professor Frederick is back in the classroom for the season. I have a great group of students. People are often very dismissive of young people and their interactions with history, but I have some fantastic students in the classroom right now, and it makes me feel kind of good because they care, they're interested, they show up, they're engaged.
They're probably really happy to be able to go to a classroom.
Yeah, well, that too. And some of them have actually discovered this channel, which has led to some really interesting conversations in the classroom. And then as word spreads, people get out their phones at the end of class and they're like, oh my goodness, you have 30,000 subscribers. You're famous. I'm like, well, no, not really, but I'm glad they think so. Have you seen any movies lately that you might think be worthy candidates for inclusion here on Real History?
Oh, way to put me on the spot. I actually, your recent talk with Marcus Brotherton, I had only ever seen the first 10 minutes of The Great Raid. And I sat down and watched the whole thing probably about 3 weeks ago. And I wasn't disappointed. It wasn't the best movie I ever saw. It wasn't the worst movie I ever saw. It was compelling. I don't know if I'll rewatch it, but the action in it wasn't super hokey or anything like that. Yeah. The tactics they used going into battle were sound, and then the tactics they used leaving battle weren't, but probably makes sense. But,
well, and I think perhaps one good reason why the movie did an okay job, tactically speaking, is because Captain Dale Dye was the advisor in it, and he also has an acting role in it, as he often does with a lot of military movies that he advises for. So, yeah, I'm glad you got to check that out at long last.
What about you? Have you seen any historical movies lately? My wife is right here.
There she is. That's the extent that she wishes to contribute. And another movie though that I'm surprised I haven't seen. I've never seen it on TV, but a movie that is currently streaming for free on YouTube is Tucker, the Man and His Dream, and that is about the automobile entrepreneur Preston Tucker, who gained a lot of fame and even a degree of infamy in the post-World War II era. And it's a Francis Ford Coppola movie, the same director as The Godfather. And I really enjoyed the film. It really captured the flavor of the era. You, as a car aficionado, would absolutely love it. And so that movie is available right now for streaming for free on YouTube. So if you've never checked it out, you want to see a good 1980s Jeff Bridges performance. Yes, it is quite good. And I was so surprised that I had hardly ever heard of it, let alone never seen any of it.
Is it anything like that Michael Keaton movie Scar, where the Japanese
Gung Ho? Yeah, it's very different from Gung Ho. Although Gung Ho is a very interesting cultural product of the 1980s, as the automobile industry was trying to transition and compete with a growing foreign market. So
back when you could be killed for driving a foreign car. We have some recommendations pouring in.
All right.
The Dirty Dozen. What do you think of that?
Oh, okay. So I have things to say about the Dirty Dozen. So the Dirty Dozen, of course, is not thoroughly grounded in historical reality. Yes, it takes place during World War II, and it includes some real life facets of the 1940s, but it is very, very, I shall say very loosely based on the exploits of a platoon of paratroopers who were known as the Filthy 13.
Pathfinders.
Yes. Yeah. And the Filthy 13 were about as colorful a crew as you could find. And I actually met one of the Filthy 13 on one occasion, Jack Womer.
Of course he did.
Yeah. He came and spoke right here at the Baker Mansion History Museum here in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And there are elements of their story, of the Filthy 13, that are incorporated into the Dirty Dozen. The part where the Dirty Dozen don't want to shave or bathe. So that is rooted in a degree of reality, because the Filthy 13, they decided from December 1943 up until D-Day that they were not going to bathe, because they wanted to prepare themselves for the rough and ready nature of living out in the field. So it's little wonder the Nazis didn't smell them coming as they were approaching them in the hedgerows of Normandy. And Stars and Stripes did a really somewhat almost comical article about these guys, how they just flaunted military authority and they were somehow able to get away with it. And Stars and Stripes concluded, pity the poor Nazi who encounters them. So that's a good connection to the Dirty Dozen.
Here, just a little procedural thing here. Does it matter if the microphone is here or here or here? This is very last minute. We had our lav mics and a nice webcam with sitting in 2 different seats and all that, and yeah. Now we have a HD webcam masking taped to the camera tripod right now.
Yes.
It's perfectly representative.
Yes.
of
our situation.
Of our situation.
Yes.
Here. Oh, we need the mic close.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, we will share it.
It's also directional, so make sure the light's pointing toward you. Okay. Let's see. My buddy Tucci said he really liked the Apollo breakdowns, and he was amazed that we got him on to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I'll add on to that too. If you haven't checked out our Apollo 13 videos, we had a former Apollo engineer
Throughout the entire Apollo program.
Yes. Yeah. And he knew all these guys. He knew Apollo astronauts. He knew all of these individuals who were involved in it. And it's my hope that we can get him back sometime to do a reaction to First Man,
Yeah, he's never seen
the
it.
Neil Armstrong biopic. As of the last time I chatted with him, he had not yet seen the film. And so it'd be really fun to get a first impression from a NASA engineer on that Neil Armstrong film. So thank you for tuning in to the Apollo 13 episodes. Those ones were especially meaningful to us.
Three Kings. It'd be cool to see that covered. Vietnam movies. We don't cover those enough. I think Forrest Gump is our only contribution to that so far. October Sky. I love that one growing up. Reds from 1981.
All right. Yes. Warren Beatty.
What do you think of Schindler's List? That's a loaded question.
Yeah. So I think Schindler's List is, of course, a cinematic masterpiece. Although I spoke to one of my colleagues about it, who's a historian as well, and he feels that the film is somewhat manipulative. It's emotionally manipulative because the story that it ultimately presents is one of hope at the very end. And of course, for so many millions of people, that was not the case in the Holocaust. And his idea was that it is not a good representative story of that really traumatic time, the 1930s and the 1940s. So do you agree or disagree? You know, we welcome you to voice your opinion on the matter. But it's an emotionally gut-wrenching film. And of course, after sitting through 3 hours of trauma as such, perhaps it's good to have a little bit of redemptive quality at the end, something to pick you up and uplift you and make you feel good. And it shows that the actions of a single individual can echo throughout generations of history. But if you really, in my mind, the best movie about the Holocaust is called The Gray Zone. And it is a movie that is not for the faint of heart, but it's about an uprising that took place in a concentration camp. And it is a grueling film, but it is quite good. And I think it captures the essence of that time period in a way that many movies have not. It's a lesser known one. Mira Sorvino and David Arquette and Harvey Keitel are in it. And Harvey Keitel plays this horribly monstrous Nazi guard. Well,
there weren't many nice ones.
This is true. What are some other questions we have coming in?
They're actually coming in pretty good. As far as NASA films, how about you cover, where'd it go? Hidden Figures. Well, good news for you. We did.
Yes. It is available for streaming now.
Generation. Oh, October Sky said that. Generation Kill. We have a pretty solid plan for that one. And it all depends on getting over and getting Chuck over at Recon Jack up to 1,000 subscribers. Because when he hits it, he is a former Recon Marine and he's never seen it. He's read the book, has never seen it. And he will be doing a genuine reaction to all 7 episodes on his channel, and then he will come on our channel and we will do a full researched historical breakdown of the events. And I think that's going to be a really, really good, fun crossover, and definitely a unique perspective. He was actually in a later iteration of the same exact unit, so late in a few years down the line. So you can't really get a better representative.
Yeah. So if you want us to do Generation Kill, you first have to help our brother channel, Recon Jack, reach 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed to that channel yet, please do so right now, and you'll get us one step closer to that aim.
That's how you know you made it, when you have a spin-off channel.
Yes.
Hamburger Hill.
Ooh. Yeah. I'll
Showa.
speak to that a little bit. Yeah. So I'm also a fan of the movie Hamburger Hill, and one reason why that is so, and the name of the director escapes me at the moment, but it's the same director who did When Trumpets Fade. And that director, in my mind, has a very strong talent for showing the grunt's perspective of combat. And he aspired in more recent years to make a film about Monte Cassino, the very costly battle that took place in Italy during World War II.
Good to go, Sean.
And additionally, he wanted to do an adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front as well. And so I think he excels at demonstrating the futility of war often, and he does that through the infantryman's perspective.
And I think I mentioned before with When Trumpets Fade, that movie would have definitely benefited from a much larger budget, and so hopefully for any future projects like that, he gets it.
Yeah, there's this wonderful trifecta of World War II films that comes out in 1998, and of course the most famous of them is Saving Private Ryan. But there's also The Thin Red Line, and then there's the HBO film, the hidden gem of the bunch, When Trumpets Fade. And all 3 of them are excellent in their own ways. They are 3 very, very different films. But there was a certain historical zeitgeist going on in the 1990s with the number of historical films that were made. You think about all of the TV movies that were showing up on the likes of TNT, and then around the 50th anniversary, right after the 50th anniversary of World War II, you had this resurgence of interest, of public interest in the Second World War, and those 3 films were part of it.
In the late 90s, it's almost as if a lot of the veterans were getting to the age where they started really telling their story, and the interest in the subject really picked up. If you read memoirs or books from World War II soldiers, you'll notice that it's rather cathartic for them later on in life to tell their stories, and that I think it's probably just natural that follows. So.
Well, and on that point, I can talk about my next book project a little bit, and
we're going to get back to the suggestions here.
Okay. All right. After my book unveil.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I'm helping a World War II veteran.
Is there anything you need me to go get?
Huh?
Anything you need me to go get?
No.
Okay.
I'm helping a World War II veteran, 98-year-old World War II veteran, currently pen his memoirs. And so he served in the 8th Air Force during the Second World War. And so I'm very excited to be working on that, and we're about 2 chapters in on it, so stay in tune for more on that in the coming months.
It's going to be really good. I gave that gentleman a ride in our Jeep, and it was his first Jeep ride ever at 98 years old. He said, "How do you get around during the war?" I walked.
A lot of walking on a big base. He said that they were trucked.
Oh, well,
from location to location as well. But yeah, his first Jeep ride at age 98.
I watched and really enjoyed the movie The Forgotten Battle because of your video. The way you described the soldiers and the gliders was almost word for word how I described it to my brother.
Thank you.
So, hey guys from Wyoming, Philip Caputo's classic A Rumor of War from Vietnam.
I'm not familiar with
Yeah.
that one. I'll have to look up.
You win the award for most obscure suggestion so far. Patton, that was a good one. Charge of the Light Brigade.
Oh, which one? The one from the 30s? I believe there's another one in the 70s, I believe, too. The Best Years of Our Lives.
One of the best movies ever made.
Yes.
Das Boot.
Yeah. Well, why don't you... The Best Years of Our Lives gets into some very universal themes about military service and being a veteran. Even though your service was separated by 65 years from the service depicted in that film, how does that movie resonate with you as a veteran?
I almost directly felt the exact same emotions as the captain, the pretty much the main character of the movie. He was a captain in the Air Force, and he was on top of his game. He was a leader. He did his job. He did it right. And when he came home, that job was gone, and he was a soda jerk. And well, I was working at a dealership fixing trucks, and I was a mechanic in the Army, and because I was a civilian mechanic, I was on top of my game, and I did a lot of good work over there. I was pretty much at one point the sole point of contact for any information about fixing trucks for a whole year. And then when I got home, I was low man on the totem pole in the garage again, and that was a rough adjustment. Usually your career only goes up, but when it goes up and then drops off again, that's it's an interesting take. And that movie really drives it. You almost feel it exactly watching that film, what that would be like. And all the other characters have a semblance of all the different, not all the different, but many different life changes that go on at that time. And they do a really good job of representing it.
It's worth mentioning, too, that The Best Years of Our Lives was the highest grossing film of the 1940s. And I have no doubt the reason why that was so is because it was a movie that resonated with so many people. People went and saw that movie, and in those characters, they saw a bit of themselves. And so I think that's one reason why it is so powerful. And incidentally, that is one of Steven Spielberg's favorite films. He has said in interviews that what he tries to do every year, he tries to introduce somebody new every year to somebody who has not seen The Best Years of Our Lives. And so I have no doubt that him seeing that film as a young man and his appreciation of that film is something that has spurred his constant interest in the World War II generation and bringing their stories to both the big screen and the small screen. What else we got?
13 Days. I think we had talked about that one before.
13 Days is a classic. I think that is an often overlooked drama. For those of you who haven't seen it, that's a Kevin Costner film in which he plays Kenneth O'Donnell, who was one of the staffers for President Kennedy. And it's about the Cuban Missile Crisis. And it takes a few dramatic liberties. It creates tension in a few places where there was not tension in reality. It also hypes up Kevin Costner's character a little bit more than what his character was.
Kevin Costner
in real life.
To do that.
I mean, who doesn't love Kevin Costner though? I mean, you got to give him his chops, And so it's a really. I think other than that though, it really captures the essence of the Cuban Missile Crisis from a political standpoint. Robert McNamara, who was still alive at the time that the movie came out, gave it some good general praise. It captured the basics of some of the conversations and struggles they were going through.
We got Thomas Mills. He's the one that actually sent us a bunch of his father's service documents. And Thomas, yes, I did store those, and I have them saved, and we will use them at a time when they are relevant. You'll see things. Anything, obviously, with your permission, that we can use either through vocal research or put up on screen or anything like that we can use. I appreciate you helping us out with any future research that goes on. Let's see, Zero Dark 30. That's a more recent history. Amistad. Actually, a couple suggestions for that one.
Stalag 17.
Don't be afraid to just come out with questions. Suggestions are good, but if you have any just general real history questions, Jared, what do you eat for breakfast? Stuff like that. It's a trick question. He doesn't eat breakfast.
I do eat breakfast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Andy does not. Yeah. So some films coming in here. Amistad. Yes. That's a really powerful one. And I guess the one area where historians have taken issue with Amistad, and that's yet another Steven Spielberg film, is that it perhaps gives a somewhat misleading impression about the significance, about why the Amistad case was significant. The film presents it as some sort of turning point in the quest for civil rights. But really, for as miraculous and uplifting as aspects of the Amistad story are, it's really an outlier in 1840s America. The Supreme Court does not recognize African Americans as human beings at that time. That's not really the impression that you get by the end of the film. But what I do love about the movie is Jaimon Hunsu, the main character in it, who portrays Cinque, who was the Mende leader who led the uprising on that slave ship. His performance is fantastic. This was 3 years before he played another slave in the movie Gladiator. Russell Crowe's sidekick in that movie. And then, of course, there is the portrayal of John Quincy Adams by Anthony Hopkins, which earned him an Academy Award nomination. And Anthony Hopkins is just stellar in that movie.
He went from not aging at all in the miniseries to being very old in that movie. Let's see.
Oh, there's a good question.
Jared, what do you find the most popular film with your students?
That's a fantastic question. And the taste of students is constantly changing. And it's a little bit of a mixed bag because so many students have not seen movies that were made before the time they were born. And I was just joking with Andy and some friends prior to all of this. A few days ago, I made a reference to the movie Gran Torino in class on a whole other topic. And students were like, "What's Gran Torino?" And I was like, "What?" And but I then realized that they were 3 or 4 years old when that movie came out, which made me feel very old all of a sudden as well. The upside of all of this, though, is that I, as a teacher and as one who actively uses film in the classroom, I have the ability to introduce them to films that they perhaps otherwise would not see. I show a little clip of Band of Brothers in one of my history survey courses, and most students had not seen it before. They were not alive at the time that series came out, and it's held up really well. All right. We
I'll
have
let you take the helm.
Yeah. All right. We have JD from the History Underground. Thanks for tuning in, JD. What's a historic event/topic that hasn't been put to film or that you'd like to see executed better?
I think we discussed this before, didn't we? Oh, no, I mean, you have the answer, not me.
I have a whole list of films that could which one comes to mind that we talked about?
That's why you're making me think. That's not good. You ever have like a word on the tip of your tongue, and there's somebody holding a microphone in your face?
Okay. So I have a long list of films that I would like to see made. Above all else, I would like to see a Band of Brothers style miniseries
That's
made about a Civil War unit. And when I worked at Gettysburg National Military Park, I had in-depth conversations with colleagues about what unit would be the best outfit to do this. And my former boss, Scott Hartwig, who's one of the top Civil War scholars out there, he actually wrote up an outline, an episode by episode outline for a miniseries examining the Iron Brigade in the Civil War. And he gave me a blow-by-blow description of what each episode would entail. You know, there's an episode about them at Manassas, and then Gettysburg, and then there's an episode about prisoners of war who are sent off and detached from their fellow combatants. And so that really is one that I think is worthy. But you know, unfortunately, the Civil War is such a political and cultural hot potato that I don't think most Hollywood studios want to go anywhere near it. And the box office failure that was The Free State of Jones back in 2016, that was the last big Civil War movie we had. And man, if Matthew McConaughey can't bring in people to come see a movie, I don't know who can.
Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, if you're watching and want somebody to write you a screenplay. Somebody mentioned wind talkers. We're gonna be like Trevor here and refuse to talk about it. We'll do that one someday, maybe. But
after I drink a bit.
Lots of people agreeing with you. Oh, Christopher Binder says, "What made you want to become a historian?"
So that circles us back around to really the mission of our channel, and that is to examine the power of movies. And I myself am a product of being introduced to a historical film, and I suspect that's the case with a lot of you tuning in as well. I saw the movie Gettysburg when I was 7, and the following summer, my parents, God love them, they took me to Gettysburg for the first time. And it was 110 degrees. My little brother was 1. He was in a diaper. Everyone was hot and miserable. But that trip, stemming from me seeing a movie, profoundly changed the trajectory of my life. And by the time I was in 5th grade, I knew I wanted to be a historian. I did my first book for young adults when I was in high school. And I have long had a passion for sharing stories about the past and making it accessible. I know our friends at the History Underground tuning in do their work with much the same conviction. You know, if we wanted to make money, we would have gone into another profession because historians don't rank the highest, but we genuinely care for what we do. And that's what I'm all about. I couldn't envision myself doing another job other than what I do right now.
I hope you wanted to make money because Winterfell just super thanks us $10.
Well, thank you, Winterfell. We greatly accept your donation.
His dad was a history teacher here in PA.
Cheers. Thank you. We appreciate that. We got some great comments and questions coming in right now.
Did I miss something?
All right.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
All right, we're scrolling back here.
I'll go back to Tucci's question. My favorite part of my last annual training was March of 2019 at Fort Dix. And I was getting out, or end of term of service. I was ETSing in less than 30 days. And I was there for 2 weeks on orders. And I kind of just did whatever I wanted. I was off working in my own motor pool with 2 soldiers, and we had our own truck. We ate wherever we wanted, whenever we wanted. But was that the year I took the projector there? No, I don't think so. But yeah, it was good times. Oh geez, yeah. Tucci and I were in the same room there in the barracks, but it was a good time. But anyway, What was the other question I just saw? Where was I stationed? It was March 2010 to February 2011. I was on Balad, or LSA Anaconda in Iraq. I was a all-wheel vehicle mechanic, and I worked my way up. I was an E5 and an E6 position vehicle inspector. The trucks would come in, and they would drop them off to me, and I'd diagnose them, what was wrong, order the parts, and assign a team to fix them. And it was a pretty good year.
All right. Let's see what else we have here as we scroll through. James says Wind Talkers was a joke, by the way. I agree completely. Yeah, Masters of the Air coming out later this year. Yeah. Gods and Generals. Oh, boy. People have feelings about Gods and Generals. And so I long awaited the release of Gods and Generals. I was in high school when that came out, and knowing that it was the prequel to one of my favorite movies, Gettysburg, I was very excited for it. And after I saw it, I concluded that it was a little bit of a letdown. Because it's just a far too preachy film that gets absorbed in the Shakespearean elements of the conflict. And one of my good friends who worked at Harper's Ferry National Historical Park at the time that the movie was being filmed there is going to come and be a guest host on our channel, and he'll be able to offer some very colorful stories about the production of it. As it was underway in 2001 and 2002. So, yeah, stay tuned for more perspectives on Gods and Generals.
All right, there's a cheeky question here of where to go. So, what prospects do you have dating as a poor historian? You'll have to email him.
Yes.
Would you rather fight during the Civil War with weapons from World War II? Or fight in World War II with modern weapons? Well, I have to. Wow. That's actually pretty simple because the Civil War would be way different if you had weapons from World War II pretty quickly. And also, modern weapons aren't that different from what they used in World War II. If you take computers out of the equation, guided missiles and whatnot. But
yeah, on that point, I'll recommend the alternative historical novel, The Guns of the South by Harry Turtledove, and it's in which a time traveler goes back in time and he takes a big bulk of AK-47s to the Army of Northern Virginia so they can use it at the Battle of Gettysburg. So if you want to talk about hypotheticals, check out that one because he is the master of fiction, fantasy, historical revisionism, if you want to call it that.
Thoughts on Disney's Billy Bob Thornton, The Alamo? A place in my heart for that movie.
I do too. And my brother, who is a filmmaker and works in the museum field, has a lot of interest of being a guest host for that movie. I am a fan of Billy Bob Thornton's The Alamo. It got panned by critics. But it is very accurate for the most part. The filmmakers went above and beyond in the production value. And what I really enjoy, this may be blasphemous to some Texans, but it shows that not all of the people defending the Alamo were saints. They were human beings who were flawed. They had money problems. They had alcohol problems. They owned slaves. They were human beings. And it's a far cry from the John Wayne interpretation from 1960. And so I'm a big fan of the 2003 or 2004 movie, The Alamo. And I promise you that's one that we're going to be analyzing. It's a very nuanced interpretation of the battle and the people who were involved in it. And I think it's, even though it was not held well at the box office or by critics, I think historians hold it in far better prestige than most do.
All right. I've been to the Alamo. There's like 1 square inch of it left, and the rest of it's just rebuilt. A movie about the Whiskey Rebellion. P.S. In PA tax law, beer is considered a necessity, but soda isn't. I think I've seen more than one comment now saying we should do a Western.
Yeah, we should.
But we did Django Unchained.
That's not really a Western. Yeah. I mean, it's a neo-Western.
All right, everyone has 30 seconds. Shout out your best Western that we should do. Maybe we'll knock that out of the park next.
Yeah. My favorite Western, even though it's not necessarily based on a true story, probably Unforgiven by Clint Eastwood. But that's a revisionist Western too, and not on the same caliber as Django Unchained. But in some ways it falls into the same category as the Alamo to an extent. Yes.
She said Wild Wild West.
Oh, Wild Wild West. Yes. Yeah, I saw that in theaters. God help me. When it came out, I believe in 1999. But no, I will say this. About Wild Wild West. In some ways, it is one of the most accurate depictions of the Reconstruction era, because you have the federal government acting as an agency of goodwill on behalf of formerly enslaved people. You have a strong, empowered African-American lead character that is fighting for those civil rights and trying to take down Confederates who would deprive recently emancipated people of all of that. And the Klansmen are inherently depicted as bad people. So it gets those three big factors about Reconstruction correctly that most Civil War era films do not. So take that, Tracy Baker.
Lots of people saying any John Ford film, but overwhelmingly Tombstone is in the lead.
Yeah. And on that point, I have a lot of students who really like Tombstone. I was talking about the American West today, and I had a little picture on the PowerPoint screen from the movie Tombstone, and students are like, yeah, I know that movie. Now, sometimes it's like their dad or their grandpa who really loves it, and then they just absorb it over time. But yeah, Tombstone would be a good one. And I saw one question here about which Wyatt Earp depiction I like more, Tombstone, which comes out in 1993, or another Kevin Costner film, Wyatt Earp, which comes out the following year. It's like Armageddon and Deep Impact is two of the same movies coming out at the same time. And I guess the best way I can answer that is that Tombstone is better written. It is a better script. It is lively. It is colorful. It has a lot of memorable one-liners. But Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner is more accurate, but it lacks the sort of flair and punch that Tombstone does. So I like them both equally for different reasons.
Agreed. All right, we're probably going to be wrapping this up soon. I don't really think we need to go much past an hour just sitting here reading people's comments. But I do appreciate interacting with everyone. We kind of just hopped into this without a plan, really. I just wanted to let everyone know that we haven't given up on the channel. YouTube gave up on our channel there for a little while. What? Oh, yeah. And we have a Patreon that I need to adjust because I found I made a middle tier for people that wanted to ask like a monthly or ask questions and participate in a monthly Q&A. And I even got on there and I said, hey, this is where you ask your questions, and not one yet. So,
well, this is a good substitute until we develop that further.
Yeah, I'm sure when we're at 4 million subscribers, perhaps we'll have more interactive.
We have one comment here on 55 Days at Peking. I'm currently teaching a class about World War II in the Pacific and Asia. And how I start that class is I go back to the 1860s with the Meiji Restoration. And we look at the long-term development as to how and why World War II happens in the Pacific and Asia in the way that it does. And we talked about the Boxer Rebellion, which is depicted in 55 Days at Peking just this week. And I like 55 Days at Peking for a number of reasons. The production value of it is just phenomenal. I mean, they rebuilt the old city and the wall and the defenses, and it's the essence of one of those big historical epics that were really popular in the 1960s. But it gets into a lot of tropes that today wouldn't hold water really well. It kind of gets into the white savior formula. It has English people playing Chinese people with yellow makeup on and things like that. And so I think that is prime territory for examining a remake. Although, of course, today with the dynamics of the United States and China, I don't know how a movie like that would play out.
Very funny, Andrew Peterson or Patterson. Somebody mentioned we should play Company of Heroes 3 when it comes out in November. It would be an interesting offshoot, and this actually came up last live stream about reviewing historical games. And coincidentally, I built a computer to edit videos. It's therefore also very good at video games, and I wouldn't mind every once in a while, logging into a game, playing 30 minutes of it. You're there. We'll break, check out a few things and make a little, 10, 15-minute video out of it.
Yeah, I see a few people shouting out "Hell Let Loose." I think that would be the obvious one to start with. And
I'd have a little webcam with us down there in the corner playing it, edit it up real nice. I think that could work. It's a little off of what we do, but movie from China called 1911.
Oh, Come and See. Yeah, Christopher commented on Come and See. If Come and See. That just it fills into a realm all of its own. That's a Soviet era film. It comes out in 1985, 1986, I believe. And it's about a young boy who's very enthusiastic to fight off the German invaders when the Nazis invade the Soviet Union. And it's just a story about complete disillusionment and this young boy turning into an old man over the course of a year as he goes under one traumatic experience after the other. And so I'd say it's the ultimate anti-war film.
That movie does not hold back.
No. No.
I actually watched it probably about 4 or 5 months ago, and it took me 3 sit downs to watch it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Not for the faint of heart, but definitely a classic of the genre that I would recommend. And
no, we did not cover the death of Stalin yet.
Yeah.
We'll get there eventually, perhaps. History buffs did an awesome breakdown of it. It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
He has way more production value than we do at this point.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Bear with us. Yeah.
Go back and watch our very first video and then watch some of our videos now. I learned how to put pictures on the screen. You know what I mean? There we are again with the Discord.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I have to look into it.
Yeah.
I guess it's, I did actually look into it a little bit. It's basically an app for your computer where you can get on there and create channels. Even we don't even have to be on there all the time. Fans can get on there and have, talk about real history films and all that stuff. But
fantastic.
Speaking of real history films, that is our website, realhistoryfilms.com.
Realhistoryfilms.com. And on there, you can find links to our t-shirt store, information about Patreon options, and most importantly, something that we spent a lot of time on is that for many of the films we have reviewed or will review, I have uploaded classroom and educational activities and documents to complement them. So if you are a teacher, I have classroom questions, primary source documents, and related materials that we have uploaded for free use and public consumption. A lot of these questions and worksheets are worksheets that I have used in the classroom, and I want to share the wealth, so to speak. I want other people to be able to use these things that I have assembled. So this is a free public service, but if you'd like to make a donation to help compensate for all of our efforts and to help us get new equipment so we don't have to do something like this again, that's great. But please do check out our website. We have a Facebook page as well. It's not quite as robust as our YouTube channel. But those are good alternative ways to keep in touch with our exploits.
The Facebook page is a fun place for me to put updates, pictures of behind the scenes stuff. Chuck running around in his tight swim shorts. I think you did that one, but yeah, all in all, I can't thank everyone enough. All 26,100 and some odd subscribers we have so far, and we're just two guys sitting here with a camera and a computer, know. It's
yeah, absolutely. And
thanks for sticking around. I mean, look at the amount of interaction we got here. 8:30 at night on a weekday. Sorry, it's when I was available. I work terrible hours. I actually had to wake up at 4:30 in the morning today to go to work. Don't ever do that. It's not good.
Before we start to head out, you'll notice that our backdrop looks a little bit different here as well. And we mentioned this at the outset of our little session here this evening. But I have a somewhat old house, and it required a little bit of TLC, and that's something else that has delayed us from doing some new episodes. But I'm going to have a nice smooth wall here in the background, have some new historical artwork on it, perhaps. And it'll be looking great for future episodes of Real History.
Yeah, we're going to try and find a way to make the background a little more, what's the word? Give it a little more pizzazz, So you're not staring at a beige wall on the bottom of a picture frame. But
it's classy.
I actually do own a green screen. I just have to find out how to use it.
There you go.
We're getting there.
We are learning, folks.
I'm old, people.
We are learning.
But, moving forward.
We'll conclude here by saying we're almost at an hour at this point. But we just really appreciate you all tuning in, offering your feedback, offering your suggestions. We try to answer and respond to as many comments and messages as we can, even the grumpy ones.
My phone alerts me of every single comment that comes in.
Oh, wow.
And I set a block on my commute to work, not driving. I'm a passenger. I set a block of time on my commute to work to go through and filter through them and reply where I can. And Jared seems to do the same. I usually let you know when it's me responding, but I can tend to be a little more of a smart ass. But if you find us worthy of financial compensation because I spent 8 hours an episode plus on John Adams for 3 episodes and we didn't make a penny on any of them, feel free on one of our regular videos to leave a super thanks. You can do that. Or we have a Patreon with close to no perks, but some. You get you can, if you want
the sales pitch, we know.
I'm just, you can get a signed copy of his book. I guess, is it still just Fierce Valor?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. If you make a, what was the donation? $25 donation, you will receive a signed copy of Fierce Valor, the true story of Ronald Spears and his band of brothers. And that can be a rolling monthly contribution. And we certainly welcome opportunities like that.
Winterfell, they did not demonetize our channel. They have just over the past 6 months, they have been super stingy about video by video basis. And I think we had about 6 videos in a row. And if you notice the slowdown, it can drain on you after a while. But we love doing this. I love the video editing and the research and all that. And
this started as a pandemic project because nothing was really open. Events and activities that we went to with friends had shut down, and it was our way to communicate and to educate and to connect with people when so many of us were stuck at home. And I suspect that may have something to do with the relatively quick growth of our channels. People were looking for something to do while they were stuck at home during the pandemic.
You mentioned marijuana one time.
Yeah. Yeah, that helps too. That helps too. Or phrasing it in the wrong way, perhaps. Yes.
Lots of people commenting that they got your book on Patreon there.
Thank you. Thank you. Any concluding thoughts?
I mean, I can't believe over 40 people sat here and listened to us rant for
coming
an
and
hour.
going. But yeah, we'll close just by saying that we really appreciate you tuning in. We're going to do our utmost, despite some of the various hurdles that we confront, to continue publishing good, meaningful content with good historical conversations. We hope to have more guest hosts to offer some insights on a lot of the films that will be forthcoming. And even though we've been having some challenges with it, we have the next 3 episodes of John Adams with our friend Emily Doherty soon to be released on the very near horizon.
Go back and watch Monuments Men. That's one we recently did with our good friend Theo from France. And that was a fun one to put together.
All right, folks. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to this evening bowl session.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time on Real History.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for stopping by. New video whenever. I don't know. I'll work on it.